Hi everybody. In this video, we're going to talk about modeling and evaluating expressions. So let's take a look at number 14. It says which expression is represented below. The first thing I want you to notice is that they gave you a key. And the key is going to help you solve this problem by decoding what the picture represents. So it's very important that you look at the key first, always. So the first thing I notice in my key is that we have a small yellow square, and that is equal to 1. And just remember that that's a positive 1 since there's no negative sign in front of it. So then we go to this green rectangular piece, and we see that that equals x. And just really quick before we move on, I want to make sure it's clear that this is a positive x. If it were a negative x, it would have to have a negative sign in front of it. So since there's no sign in front of it, it must be positive. And that's also a positive 1x because it's just one green rectangle. So now that we know what each piece means, let's go over and look at the picture that we were given. So in my picture, I can clearly see that I have 2 green rectangles. And then I can also see that I have 3 yellow squares. Now, when these pieces are just next to each other like this, we want to go ahead and imagine that we are adding them together. So it's kind of like this green piece plus this green piece plus all of these yellow pieces together, right? We're adding them all up. If I wanted to write each piece separately, I could write that this is x plus 1, 1, and 1. However, that's a really long sentence. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to simplify. And we really could do this just by looking at the picture. Instead of writing x plus x, I can go ahead and circle and group all of my x's together. And that is the same thing as 2x. And I'm also adding that to all of my 1's, all of these yellow squares. So I can circle all of my yellow squares. And I see that there are 3 of them. So instead of writing 1 plus 1 plus 1, I can shorten that or simplify and go ahead and write plus 3. So now that all of my x's are grouped together and all of my 1's are grouped together, I know that I've finished simplifying, and my final answer should be 2x plus 3, which is choice D. Let's go ahead and look at the next question. Question 15 says, directions. Type your answer in the box below. Evaluate the expression below if A equals 11, B equals 2, and C equals 5. So before we solve this problem, I want to go over really quickly what this word evaluate means. Evaluating is kind of like solving. We're going to take each one of these letters, and we're going to use the number that they gave us as equal to the letter. So the value of A is 11. The value of B is 2, and the value of C is 5. And we're going to take these letters out of the expression below, and we're going to replace them with the numbers that we were given. And we call this evaluating or substitution. Think about when your teacher has to be absent from class, who comes in and takes their place? A substitute. So now these numbers are going to come in and act like a substitute for those letters. And once we replace the letters with the numbers, we'll be able to use order of operations like PEMDAS or GEMDAS to solve. So the first number they gave us was that A is equal to 11. So I want you to notice that everywhere we see the letter A, I'm going to replace that with the number 11. So instead of saying 16 minus A, it's going to look like 16 minus 11. The next value I see is that B equals 2. So I'm going to go down to my problem, and everywhere I see the letter B, I'm going to have to replace that with the number 2. And last but not least, I see that the value of letter C is 5. So looking at my expression below, everywhere I see the letter C, I'm now going to have to replace that with the number 5. So what is this going to look like when we're all said and done? Well, if I replace each letter with the number, it's going to look like 16 minus 11 plus negative 3 times 2 times 5, and that whole product quantity divided by 2. So now if I wanted to, I could take the time, go through in PEMDAS order, following my order of operations, and solve. But another thing I can do is use Desmos to help me solve. So I can go ahead and tell Desmos that the value of A is 11, the value of B is 2, and the value of C is 5. And then all I have to do is type this expression here exactly as it was given to me. and I can solve or simplify the expression. It'll tell me exactly what this should equal when it's all said and done. So now, since I want to have this big fraction here, I need to use the fraction button on my Desmos, the A over B button. And up here, I want to type -3 times B times C, and I can just write them next to each other to do that. And then that should all be divided by 2. Now, I want you to notice before I type in the last thing, it doesn't tell me the answer. It's not until I finally type in that denominator that it tells me the value here is -10. So my final answer that I should type in the box below is going to be -10. All right, we've got one more question about evaluating. So remember, evaluate means we're going to take the letters from the problem and replace them with the numbers that they gave us. And then we're going to simplify to get our answer into just one number. So the first value they give us is that the value of x is 2. So in the question, everywhere I see an x, I'm going to have to replace that with the number 2. The second replacement value they give me is that y equals -3. So now I know that everywhere in the problem I see a y, I need to replace that with a -3. So if I were to solve this on my own using order of operations, every letter would be replaced with the number of its correct value. So this would look like -3 -2 -8 plus parentheses -2. And this -2 is being multiplied by this x value here. So I can write multiplication with the dot and write times 2. And then I would need to follow PEMDAS to solve. So I would need to do everything in parentheses, and then I could go back and do my subtraction and addition in order. However, I don't have to do any of that because Desmos will do it for me. That's like a shortcut. So I'm just going to tell Desmos what the value of each letter is, telling it that x equals 2 and that y equals 3. And then all I have to do is type my expression in exactly like it was given to me. And I should get the correct answer. So our answer here should be -11. And actually, I just realized that I made a mistake. The value of y is supposed to be -3. And when I look at what I typed into Desmos, I typed in a +3, which is why I'm getting an answer -11 that isn't a choice here. So I need to fix what I typed into Desmos. This should say -3 for y. And when I do that, look at that, my final answer changed. And now I know that my final answer should be -17, which was choice B. Thanks for watching this video on evaluating. Hope that helps you study for your test. Good luck.